Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Saints Network podcast and the last post-match review of the 2024-2025 Premier League season. Saints took on Arsenal today at St Mary's. I got in here about 2 hours ago after being at the game myself. We'll be talking all about that today. But before we get into it, please make sure you hit all those magical buttons before you do anything else. Hit the like button if you enjoy the content. Smash subscribe if you haven't already. And you can hit that button notification icon if you want to be notified every single time we go live or drop a new video. Equally, if you're in Discord, it will tell you all those things as well. !Discord, I think works. Did I set that up? I don't know. But there'll be a link in the video description below if I didn't set that up already. Alternatively, if you want to jump in and support the channel, what you can also do is become a member, which gets you extra special spaces in Discord in the Staplewood training area of our Discord server. Equally, if you are a member for 3 months or more, come, what did I say, August? End of August. Then you'll be entered at random into a prize draw. We'll be picking someone at random from all those people that have been entered, who've been a member for 3 months or more. And you could win the new Saints home shirt, which we're yet to see. We're yet to see the new home shirts. We've seen like Chelsea have shown their new home shirt already for the 25-26 season.
We are still waiting.
We are still waiting for our new home shirt, but we are not still waiting to find out who the person leading the side will be next season. So Southampton Football Club did today officially announce the appointment of the new first team coach, Will Still. And I'm not saying it's still Will. I'm saying it's Will Still.
Let's not get into that.
Who will be the first team coach for the 25-26 season, taking over at St Mary's for our season in the Championship, which we'll be talking about throughout the show. I've got a lot of opinions on it. I'm actually quite excited overall. There's some other things we're yet to find out for definite, and that's, for example, whether his brothers will be joining him as part of his coaching staff. However, today it is finally over, Ash. It's finally over.
Thank God.
We played Arsenal at home at St Mary's today for the last game of the campaign. We broke a record. We have now the highest number of defeats in a Premier League campaign. Played 38, lost 30.
Lol.
Lost 30. However, actually today's game wasn't that bad. Saints did Saints things, which we will get onto, but in terms of an overall performance, I saw the lineup and I was a bit, I wasn't angry or upset. I was a bit kind of, that's odd. So no Taylor Harwood-Bellis, no Jan Bednarak, no Stevens, no Carl Walker-Peters. So 4 of our kind of main back 5 out. Actually, interestingly, no Ryan Manning. He was on the bench. We were playing Flynn Downs from the start. We also had Matty Fernandez. We had Rohl starting. Ross Stewart got another start again. More on him in just a moment. We also started Jay Robinson, and we started that useless words.
I'm assuming you mean Kamaldeen Sulemana.
That guy, yeah.
I'm just going to assume.
Warn you all slightly. I've had many beers today. It's the last game of the season, isn't it? So it's allowed. This is my professional face after having many beers. I can perform. It's fine.
I have not had many beers.
I can perform.
I am here to carry the show tonight.
I am here. I can perform after many beers. Just ask the wife. So we took on Arsenal today for the last game of the Premier League campaign. I actually, honestly, I don't think the performance was all that bad. It wasn't great, and there was a couple of typical Saints moments. In fact, actually, the game, I think I kind of sum up the game in total by calling it a typical Saints performance. There was a number of occasions where we broke through, kind of stopped, went back.
Yeah.
Sulemana, I give him grief, but actually on a couple of occasions he did a great job of beating a defender and running at them and then stopping and kind of letting them catch up and not really doing anything with it. We did go 1-0 down. It was a weak defensive effort to concede from Kieran Tierney, who's their left back, I think, who beats Ross Stewart at the front post, and it wasn't a bad goal. But Arsenal didn't look great. But I'll hold my hands up and say Arsenal were not running a full-strength side at the start of the game. It was a hodgepodge of random players. I mean, you know it's bad when you're playing Raheem Sterling, right? So,
just quickly on
he
that.
probably wouldn't make most teams as a cleaner, and he started today.
I don't know why Arsenal made all those changes. It's not like they got a game next week.
So I said this to Matty's in chat, Matt Jones in chat. I said this to Matty today. I don't understand why. Who are they resting him for?
No idea.
It doesn't make any sense. You might as well go out on a bang and win the game.
Not unless they're doing what United are doing and buggering off to Kuala Lumpur for a
post-season
tour.
And they bought on Saka and they bought on Odegaard and then they sort of started to look a bit more impressive. And as we'll get on to, Odegaard scored the winner. But I don't know why they were resting people and playing. For example, the one that really gets me is Raheem Sterling. I've never really rated him as a player. I'll be perfectly honest, but he's not even an Arsenal player. He's on loan. So why give him the start? There's no reason to. He's going back to his home club. There's no point in if you're giving a youngster a start to give them some Premiership minutes. Fine, I understand that. But Raheem Sterling is an odd choice over Saka, who's been solid for them for the most of the season when he wasn't injured. I just don't really understand it. So Saints went 1-0 down to what was quite a well-worked goal, but it wasn't a great defensive effort from us. And then I think most people surprised within St Mary's Stadium, we grabbed an equaliser. And to double surprise, that equaliser came from Ross Stewart. So the Loch Ness Drogba rose at the far post from a corner, I think it was, as well.
Yeah, Matty Fernandez corner.
So corner and a header from a striker who was playing, which is bizarre. And it was Ross Stewart, and he scored. Who knew that was a thing? Who knew play a striker who's a tall man and put a high cross in and he might score? Jesus Christ, imagine if we'd tried that for the last 37 games.
I know, right?
What was funny was me and Matty were also chanting if Stewart scores were on the pitch, because I didn't think he would.
And then he did.
And he scored. I got a message from you instantly. Don't go on the pitch. Don't go. I was dying with laughter.
I wouldn't normally have done that, but when you texted me at 1 o'clock telling me you were in a pub in Southampton, I was like, tonight's show's going to be fun. So I was like, just to make sure that we have a show and you don't get banned for next season, don't go running on the pitch.
Yeah, so that was 1-1. And then again, it's a theme for the season. I don't want to labour the point too hard. However, Saints did Saints things. We were looking okay. We were. There was a couple of occasions where we were a little bit shaky. Arsenal weren't really bothered. What would you call it? A dead rubber. They had nothing to play for.
Pure dead rubber.
The only thing they really had to play for was the Golden Glove, which was arguably
it's a thing.
And he's got joint Golden Glove, and if he'd have kept a clean sheet, he'd have got the Golden Glove, and no one actually cares. But we obviously, when we scored, Arsenal decided we need to not be beaten or draw with Southampton, because that would be embarrassing. Correct, it would be.
Yeah.
And they ramped up a bit. They bought on by Saka. They bought on Odegaard. And Odegaard then ended up getting the winner. And it was a bit frustrating. And the reason why the day was frustrating, I'll be honest with you, I'll hold my hands up, right? I'm aware there's some people in chat who watch us frequently who are Arsenal fans. A couple of people from my other channel who are Arsenal fans. Mr. Cooney's in chat, I know he's an Arsenal fan. I don't want to trigger you all here, because I know you've had your fair share of terrible decisions this season. We've seen some of them, right? They have. Yes. They've had some terrible decisions. They've had some terrible red cards. And they should feel aggrieved by the officials. But today was one of those things, I think, for me personally, and I said this to Ian, who sits behind me, today kind of epitomised part of the reason why I will not miss the Premier League. I will not miss it. And people call it corrupt. And I don't know how much I believe that. I don't know how much I believe that it is quote unquote corrupt. But I do firmly believe there is big club biases. There was a moment where Matty Fernandez strikes a half volley, I think it is, outside the box. Declan Rice handballs it in the area.
Seguara did, I think.
Was it Seguara?
Yeah, I think it was Seguara.
Okay, I'll stand corrected. Maybe it's Seguara. It's handball. Declan Rice handballs it in the area.
It's a penalty.
It's a penalty. It's a 100% penalty.
All day long.
And I think if that happens, I'm a genuine person now who believes, and I didn't like this kind of stuff because it feels very conspiracy theory, but I'm a person right now who believes if that happens at the other end of the pitch, other team other way around, they get given a penalty.
More on those decisions later.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that was a penalty, and it wasn't given, and that's upsetting. And then they shortly scored afterwards. However, we clawed it back with an equaliser. And then there's another moment where Flynn Downs, who didn't actually have a terrible game, he's battling for the ball, and he's battling in and around the 18-yard box for Arsenal. And the ref gives what is a terribly weak foul. A terribly weak foul. But he gives a foul nonetheless. And to be fair to the officials on this occasion, they're given and they're not given. And Arsenal go and almost immediately score down the other end. Now, it would be irresponsible and childish of me to say that because he got given the foul, they scored a goal. Because they got given a foul in their own 18-yard box, and then Odegaard shoots from 20 yards out of our 18-yard box and scores.
Good finish, to be fair.
And it is a good finish. And I don't think it's fair to say you gave a foul and we then conceded, because there's a whole thing that happens then. The ball goes down the other end of the pitch.
Yep.
But it is still a weak foul to give. And you have to argue maybe that doesn't play out that way if that foul's not given. That being said, I will I will say it's one of those moments where I don't believe in the rhetoric of Will Smallbones the devil and he should never play for Saints ever again. He's an academy player who likes the club and loves the club, and I thank him for trying hard. I've said frequently, with the ball at his feet, Smallbone isn't the worst. Mm-hmm. When defending and positioning is the key to the game at the time, then he's not very good. And if you look at that second goal that Arsenal concede, you look at Smallbone and the way that Odegaard essentially just shrugs him off with no real battle at all, he arguably is the reason why he gets an easy kind of shot at goal.
I think it's naivety. I think it's naivety from him, and I think he's been weak.
I think he's been weak.
It almost smacks, and you'd almost forgive this if it was. It is a dead rubber, but it almost smacks of. It's the last few minutes, and oh shit, he scored. Excuse my French. Oh, he scored. Season's over. Everyone's knackered. Yeah. Everyone's had enough. Let's say it was dead rubber. There's plenty of dead rubbers across the Premier League today, some of which ended in weird results, like Spurs getting smacked 4-1 at home.
And still celebrating.
There
was a beautiful moment when the Arsenal fans started to give the Saints fans a little bit of abuse. And the Saints fans came back with, they've won more than you. They've won more than you, Tottenham Hotspur. They've won more than you. Which, if you're going to give abuse, I mean, you need to expect that back.
They've got a point.
They've got a European trophy as well, actually.
Yeah. No comment.
So, I don't want to labour on the game too much, chat, because let's be honest, it's a same old. It's Arsenal. They finished second in the league. They've had a pretty solid league. They've scored a reasonably decent number of points. They've scored an incredibly high number of points, actually. They've had a great season. They've been pipped by a superior Liverpool side, let's be honest. They have. And Arsenal fans can sit there and say, VAR are the reason why we didn't get first. They're not. Liverpool have been superior this season. Let's be honest, they have.
Yeah,
it's been the better side.
Finished 10 points clear, yeah. So.
Yeah, they've been a better side by... You can't blame VAR for a 10-point deficit. It's not possible. But Arsenal have had a solid season. They've done well. I actually quite like Arteta. I think he's a decent boss. I'd also like to have spent 700 million as well, to be fair. But 850 million. Sorry, thanks, Ash. As well, to be fair. But I don't think anyone really expected Saints to get anything out of that game apart from perhaps a loss and a record loss. There was a point, come 70 minutes, I was like, we could get another point here. And at that point, I was like, how traditional Saints is this? Lose to Leicester, lose to Everton, draw to Man City, maybe draw to Arsenal. It's such a Saints way of behaving, isn't it?
No, it is.
It's mental.
And then we make loads of changes, and yeah. But
and again, same old Saints, right? We made a bunch of changes, and we got weaker, and the kind of the shape fell apart. And the second the shape fell apart, Arsenal found more space, and this is how Odegaard scored his goal. However, the biggest news piece today was the fact that Will Still, the new announced Southampton first-team coach, was in the stands.
Yes, he was.
Yeah,
him and his girlfriend were there watching behind the in front of the former Prime Minister.
Yeah, no one cares about him.
No one cares about him. No, he was sat next to Johannes Spors watching the game. Apparently, Ross Stewart came out afterwards and said that they haven't met him yet, so it's interesting that he didn't get involved before the game. So I would assume that he's going to disappear on holiday for a couple of weeks.
Well,
and then come back and get everything going.
I'm going to touch this. So before we touch on Will, I want to jump into Will a bit. What I actually would like to do today is spend a significant amount of time, a reasonable amount of time, talking about Will and his appointment, because I've seen a swathe of kind of mixed receptions on social media. But before we get into that, what I will say is the season's finally over, Saints fans. Okay, we don't intend to stop content. We intend to keep putting content out. It might be a little more sporadic. We might have the odd Sunday off. But we're going to try and continue throughout the off-season period, giving you guys weekly streams, content, keeping up to date with what's going on. It might be that some weeks there's not a lot to talk about, and so we'll cover weird things that might have happened in the season, do reviews, look at, was it Fuck, Marry, Kill? No, Sell, Loan, Keep.
Sell, Loan.
Jesus Christ. We might do that, for example, next week. But the season's over. You can breathe a sigh of relief for going into the Championship, which I think is probably one of the more exciting leagues. We should be able to compete. We do know now that next season we will still be joined by Sheffield United. We will also be joined by Nathan Jones and Charlton.
Yeah.
I really wanted Orient to win that.
Well, if they'd have turned up and actually put an effort in, they probably could have done, but they were dreadful.
I watched half of it in the pub, and I had 4 points in at this point. But they looked all right. They looked all right. They didn't look great.
I watched all of it.
Did you?
At work. And I didn't think Leyton Orient looked very good at all.
I thought both of the playoffs were quite weak. In fact, to be fair, though, as well, Leyton Orient gifted Charlton that win with the way that keeper didn't stop that free kick.
Yeah,
anyway,
Tommy Chocolate wrist.
The Championship's exciting next season. I'm looking forward to the Championship next season. Genuinely looking forward to it. And one of the reasons why, before we go into one of the reasons why I'm looking forward to the Championship next season, what happens at the end of the season, if you've seen it in some of the other stadiums, Arsenal, for example, their last game at home at the Emirates, Arteta gets on the microphone and talks to the fan base, and it's all lovely, and everyone's really happy and crying, and despite the fact none of them are from London. Anyway, Southampton obviously aren't going to be doing that kind of thing. The club is a little bit tone deaf for two reasons mostly. Firstly was because they'd continued to send out emails. In fact, I had 2 emails saying, please don't go on the pitch. I'm not sure how many people do celebrate a record number of losses and 13 points, in a Premier League season. But they did ask us twice to not go on the pitch, unless they were fearful for the player safety, because we were going to jump on the field of play and lamp as many of them as we possibly could in the hope that they might be injured enough to not compete next season. But secondly was they then did the typical lap of honour, which is
tone deaf.
It is tone deaf, isn't it? And I think the thing is, I think the club can do the same thing and frame it differently. They can say the players want to thank you for your support, rather than we're going to walk around and you can clap us off. Do you know what I mean?
I get what you mean. I think they try and dress it up like that, and the club did put out on social media about half an hour ago or 40 minutes ago or something, thanking Saints fans for their supports and saying in the toughest season your numbers have been there left, right and centre.
Which they have.
I think a lot of people were expecting something, because a lot of some players, people like Kyle Walker-Peters, who's obviously been a fantastic servant for the football club, didn't really get a chance to say goodbye, so to speak. But I think the way the season's gone, and I know that you were there, I wasn't, and I know that you said that some of the receptions were quite mixed. I just think it's very tone deaf to assume to do something like that.
It was mixed. There was a fair amount of booing that came out of the northern stand. There was also a lot of chanting for Matty Fernandez. I think it's pretty safe to say that the club, most people were happy to clap off Rambo, Fernandez, probably Carl Walker-Peters for being a good servant. I'd argue that people are probably... I spoke to a fair few people that are sort of actually a little bit upset that Ugochukwu will be leaving us this season, because he was obviously on loan from Chelsea. And he's going to be going back to Chelsea. The likelihood is Chelsea aren't going to let us keep hold of him. They probably want him playing Premier League football.
100%.
There'll probably be other suitors. I think actually he's been relatively solid, and I'll miss him because I think he's been a decent player. And I think that's where it stops. Honestly, I think that's where it ends. I don't think there's much else to applaud. I think that they're never going to win, even if they come out and say we would like to say thank you to you. People are going to be like, "Boo, get off! You've been toilet." So I think it was a bit tone deaf. And I sort of hung around a bit because I was wondering actually if they were going to do something around Will and the appointment of Will. So I think for most of us Saints fans who've been following us this season, it's fair to say that it's not been a roller coaster, has it? It's been trudging through a sewer the whole time. It's
been cliff diving.
There's been no ups. It's been downs the whole way through. And I think we recognised quite early on that we weren't in a place where we were going to be able to compete in this league, both from a squad perspective. Russell Martin, I don't dislike Russell for reference, but I think he was definitely out of his depth. He was ill-prepared to adapt and change.
Which is interesting, because when Spurs announced it, when they interviewed Spurs for the announcement today, he said, well, I can't remember the exact quote.
What was very apparent in our discussions was the clarity of his philosophy and the identity he wants to have, but also his willingness and ability to adapt to different situations as they present themselves. You impressed, Luke?
Exactly that. Exactly that. There we go. Yeah, I'll take that. Oh, you've written it in the show notes. That's why. All right, I feel like an idiot now. Didn't even realise that. Prepped.
See?
There you go. When I said I was going to carry the show, I lied.
6-7 beers in and prepped.
Look, I think that's the point, isn't it? So it's interesting because obviously you talked about Nathan Jones getting promoted with Charlton.
Yeah.
It's highly likely now being reported that Russell Martin's going to take over at Leicester with their however many points deduction they're going to get. So you'll have 2 former managers coming back. But the criticism of Martin was that he wasn't able to adapt in the Premier League. And when he did try and adapt, he went so far from one way to the other.
Yeah.
If anyone's seen the highlights from the Ipswich game today, 2 of the goals they conceded, the one that James Ward-Prowse scored for West Ham, for example, came from, yet again, teams absolutely bugger-arsing around with the ball at the back rather than just getting it forward. And that's kind of been the highlight for all three teams that have been relegated. And we'll go for we might do a bit of a season review in the pre-season, but let's be honest, it's been awful and we've been dreadful. But the fact that they've come in with this, Will's come in with this supposed adaptability. Obviously, we're waiting to see what his backroom staff are going to be.
Yep.
I'm assuming that'll come. Like I said, I assume he'll probably go on holiday for a few weeks first and take a bit of time.
No, I mean, I don't think he's allowed in the sun.
Oh God, look at these ginger. Yeah, right. Okay, okay. Well, he'll go on holiday to Antarctica or something.
Yeah, the fjords.
Shut up. So let's just move on from that. So look, he's got a big job in his hand. We know he has, and I think it's interesting. Someone said to me, one of our show followers said to me that he wonders whether Will Still's agreed to deal so quickly because he knows he's going to have some money to spend. When you look at the teams that are in the Championship, and we'll talk a bit more about that later. The Championship is very strong next year now.
Okay, let's talk about Will Still's appointment. Actually, this is the point that I wanted to go onto the part of the show that I was actually most excited about. To be honest with you, I've been keeping a close eye on social media. So Will Still being a deal over the course of the last week is not really a secret. It's been quite widely reported on. It was apparently reported that it was signed yesterday as a deal, and then would announce and reveal today. I think the club could have done a better job of that, but I also kind of appreciate they didn't want to be, look how amazing this is at the end of what is one of the worst seasons we've ever had in our existence. So I think there was a balance to be struck there. I don't think they did a terrible job of that. But a lot of people, I've seen a fair few comments on social media about how excited they are about Will's appointment, and I'll be honest, I am in that camp at the moment. And I've seen a lot of people saying that they're quite disappointed for a number of reasons. One of the most ridiculous reasons I've seen so far is he has no English management experience. Cool. Neither did Pep Guardiola, Jose Mourinho, or Alex Ferguson when they took over at their respective clubs. So shut up.
I will just quickly jump in on that. That's not very good English, isn't it? I'll just quickly jump in on that. The Sunderland manager got him promoted yesterday, Libris, I think that's his name.
Came from the French league?
Only had three years experience in the French league and never had any experience in England. Took over Sunderland the first season and they won the playoffs.
But exactly. But same as I said before, Mourinho when he took over Chelsea, no English football experience. Alex Ferguson when he took over at Man United, no English football experience. And then Pep Guardiola when he took over Man City, no English football experience. So that's a ridiculous argument.
Oh, it's a stupid argument. Yeah, argument.
So he's young, he's never played the game. Cool.
No, he's never played the game at the highest level. He has played the game.
I mean, I've played the game. Yeah, but I've played the game.
No, but he played it to a semi-pro level. So he's at least played the game to some
level.
Are
you suggesting that my Tuesday night five-a-side was not semi-pro?
I mean,
because that's quite offensive.
Stealing the subs bag does not mean you're getting paid.
So he's come in, and one of the biggest things I've seen actually is people arguing between the Will Still and the Danny Rohl argument. I'm still seeing it. We should have got Danny Rohl. We should have got Danny Rohl. We should have got Danny Rohl. I don't see Danny Rohl staying at Sheffield Wednesday. I think Danny Rohl will be moving from Sheffield Wednesday. Sorry, Nick, in chat, but I think he will be moving from Sheffield Wednesday.
Agreed.
And as you will have seen on the show previously, I was fully in the Danny Rohl camp for the longest time.
I think we all were, because I think that was what we did the research on Danny Rohl because that's what we were.
Yeah.
The odds were slashed and we assumed it was
I'm going to throw something slightly controversial out there. I am not sold on him based on his, what's the word I would use, behaviour in the last month or so. Because I get the impression at the moment Southampton has spoken to him again and he's gone, let's just see what offers I get first.
I think
which
that's
obvious. I don't blame him for. I don't. Because if you're going to go, well, actually, I could take the Southampton job in Championship or I could be given the, I don't know, Spurs job. If they hadn't have won the European trophy, you could almost guarantee Andrew would have got the sack.
Probably guarantee.
Now I still think he might lose his job, but now he's given Levy a bit more of a decision to make. But now I think that, for the sake of argument, right, he could have offered a Premier League job at what is it? Let's be honest, is a bigger club.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So what that then makes me feel like, so although I don't blame him for that, people are slamming him for that. But what I don't blame him for is going, why would I not take the best possible opportunity I have? What concerned me was if he did take the Saints job, how long does he last before one of the Premier League clubs or the Bundesliga clubs comes in and says, actually, we want you now? And then we go, we're back to square one with no manager again.
I get you. I think that whether the word behaviour, I mean, it is what he is, but, it's been obvious.
I think his behaviour is a little bit disgusting.
I think he's obviously wetting for, and, there are jobs available in Germany, France.
But to finish the league, disappear straight back off to Germany, do some interviews with German media. I think it's very disrespectful to Sheffield Wednesday.
Again, yeah, I agree. Coming away from Danny Rohl is specifically, don't want to get stuck on him. Will Steele, however, let's be honest, is going to go two ways. He's either going to do a rubbish job in English football and really struggle and get sacked. Let's be honest, it could happen.
Of course it's possible, 100%.
Or he's going to do a good job, get us back to the Premier League, and we're going to be a stepping stone because he has been the hottest prospect for management in football.
The thing is, as well, who else do we bring in? This is my argument to people. Saints fans out there are chatting like we should go and get Pep Guardiola. He's not coming here. And even then, surely bringing any manager at the moment into the club in its current state, in its current position, any manager coming in, doesn't matter if it's Mourinho or Pep, any manager at that point is a gamble. Isn't it?
Everyone's a gamble. Everyone's a gamble.
You can look at Pep, and I don't want to pick on Pep, and I don't want to pick on Man City, but you look at Pep, and you can look at this. Quite often, you can look at the squad that he's working with, both at Barcelona and now at Man City, and go, I could win trophies with that squad. Right?
Yeah.
I probably couldn't, obviously, but
I could.
You get the principle, though. When you've got the world's best players, it's a little easier to win things. Lol, this year, because they haven't, but it is a little easier to win things.
Yeah.
So everyone's saying it's a gamble bringing still in. It's a gamble changing managers full stop. No matter who it is and when it is.
We'll get a feel for it. We haven't called to him tonight. Chat, Saints fans in the chat, what's your feelings on Will Steele?
Yeah, I would like to know.
What's your feeling? Are you happy with Will Steele? Would you
what
have
I would say
gone
is
for Danny Rohl?
Where my confidence comes from as well is, and I'd like to know what you think. I don't think we've actually really spoke about this at all. Where my confidence comes is Spores has come in and in around Christmas time, and I think what he's done, and again I chatted to Ian about this today. I think what he's gone. There's no point mucking around with the playing staff or
100%.
even the coaching staff at this point, because let's be honest, it was already fucked. So I think he's gone. There's no point.
He couldn't have done anything anyway. Transfer window.
So what I can do is I can panic and flap and panic buy and muck about with coaching staff and blah blah blah. At which point I get to the end of the season, I go, Jesus, I haven't sorted all my backroom staff out. I've not got my structure in place. Mm-hmm. Or he can go, that's dead. Forget it for this season. Yeah. Rebuild my backroom staff. Get that to a level. So he's rebuilt all of his recruitment model. He's put people in places for head of development, etc. And now he's brought in a manager that he believes in. And there's an interview that's come out, I think it was today, with Johan Spores about the appointment of Will. I'll give it a read. It's interesting. And I think he's actually taken some time to pick the right person. And I legitimately was a little bit worried that we wouldn't see a Saints appointment until like mid-August. We're going, what's happening? What's going on? And we've got a manager in place strictly before the end of the season.
Yep.
So he's going to have watched today. He would have watched probably last week and the week before. He's going to be able to come in and go, you lot are out because you're useless. You're all being transfer listed. You need to try harder. You need to be less ugly, etc. Right? But he's actually going to be able to be given a full pre-season to build his team. I think it's a real positive thing.
It can only be. We discussed it so many times on the show how it's important that we get the appointment in place. Now, Will Steele was a gamble. Danny Rohl would have been a gamble. Frank Lampard would have been a gamble.
Pochettino was a gamble. Ronald Koeman was a gamble.
Yeah, all of the names were a gamble when they came in. So for us, it's about having the person in place. If he's in place now, then he can start getting things. And he like I said, Ross Stewart said that he hadn't met the players today. I guarantee you he's met them now. I guarantee you he's been down.
He'll be in the training room at the end.
100% he's been down and met the squad. And I just don't understand roughly in terms of where we are now. Fans need to do you know what? We've had the worst season ever.
Yeah.
Right, we've had the worst season ever. But now the season is done. We've got 2 weeks. It'll be 2 weeks of quiet, which is why we can do things like keep sale loan next week. Because although we'll know.
Break kill, yeah.
Yeah. Whatever you shag, marry, avoid, whatever it is, know those ones. Just realised that our mum's watching. But yeah, so we can go through those because there's going to be a bit of quiet, and then obviously, like I said, the vultures will start circling. We've got that stupid thing, haven't we, where the transfer window closes for the Club World Cup, which is now in the summer and not in the winter.
Oh, that's weird, isn't it? The Club World Cup that doesn't actually include any champions.
Yeah, because they're doing it from the season before, but it's also got 2 English teams, not the actual champion. It's just he needs to be given.
Man City and Chelsea?
Yes, Man City and Chelsea again.
Yeah.
So he just needs to be given time.
Real Madrid, no Barcelona, no Liverpool.
He just needs to be given time to build build a squad,
Yep.
get in place what it is. Now, interestingly, we've obviously seen some communication where the club, Phil Parsons, the chief executive, has come out and said that the plan is next season is to have a midfield three of Flynn Downs and Shay Charles, who people still forget is coming back. He's our player. Having Matty Fernandez at the helm. Matty Fernandez has now been valued at £50 million, and there are a lot of Premier League clubs circling.
So I think I don't know if this is blind positivity, and I don't know if it's blind positivity because it's been such a terrible season, and I've been to so much of it, both home and away, and I've witnessed so many terrible performances and still sat there singing my arse off. But I actually have got to a point with what Johan Spoors does. People see the results on the football pitch, people see the score lines, and that is the make or break for their mood and their positivity, and I get it, because ultimately football is a results-driven business. However, I look at what Spoors has done behind the scenes, I look at the staffing that he's put in place, I look at what he's trying to do and how he's trying to structure things. I am positive going into next season, whereas if we would have been where we were, say, 3-4 months ago, I'd have been terrified going into next season. So I think he's made good moves.
And just quickly on that, sorry to jump in, there are still Saints fans on there on social media that are saying Ivan Juric should have been given a chance in the Championship.
Oh, shut your cake, Oles. You're drunk.
I know. Well, they're drunk, yeah.
But as you're saying, right, as you're saying, he's going to have to come in and he's going to have to build his squad.
Yeah.
So let's jump into the transfer news and rumours section of the show. You're right, Matty Fernandez has been valued at 50 million, supposedly. What do you think about that?
I think that it's about right. Matty Fernandez has had a very good emerging season. He's won Player of the Year. He's won Young Player of the Year. He's also won Australian Southampton Supporters Player of the Year.
The important one.
The important one, yeah.
Upside down trophy.
He has put in performances. He's been consistent. It actually looks like he's given a crap. And if he stayed for a year, I don't think he will, but if he stayed for a year, he'll be a revelation in the Championship. But the amount of Premier League teams that are circling over him, I'd be very surprised if he sticks around. And I think £50 million is if you consider the market that we're in nowadays, I think £50 million is about right.
The thing is, I think with Tyler Dibbling being originally valued at 100 million a few months ago, which I'll be honest, at the time I thought was a ridiculous price tag for what was in my personal opinion, a firmly mediocre player. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's bad. I don't, but I don't think he's anywhere near as good as he could or should be, and I don't think he warrants that price tag. But if we do value Tyler at 100 million, and you take away the English tax, I think Matty's got to be 60 to 70 at that point. I think if you're realistic about Tyler and you put him at 70 to 80 maximum, then 50 is probably reasonable. I would like the club to show some real ambition here with their youth development program that they're rebuilding. They're talking a lot about the academy and getting that back to its strengths, its former strengths.
Yep.
They've reset their recruiting sort of structure and put new people in charge. They brought in a brand new young manager. I would like them to go, you, Matty, are central to this team. And I am not as convinced as you are that he is definitely going to go at this point.
Can I make a statement?
Of course you can.
I'm going to make a statement. I'm going to say this before you get into what Cameron just said, because you're not going to spend ages butchering that name after having 7 points.
Old gone back.
Yeah, that'll do. That's fine. I would
He will be soon.
Potentially consider, I'm going to throw this out there, and I'm going to ask Chat to do this. Chat being quiet tonight. Come on, games. Up your game.
Up your game, yeah. Spend some money, pigs.
I didn't mean that. I was about talking, but still,
okay, well,
although we still don't have any new members tonight, throwing that out there. I would build a team around Matt Fernandez next year, and I'd give him the captain's armband.
Do you know what? I probably would, based on his performance this season and the level of effort that he puts in on the pitch.
Yep.
If you're going to go down the route of leading by example, I'd give him the captain's
Because
armband.
I think if you and we'll go through this, and we, like Liam said, we've got lots of plans for pre-season shows and stuff. When we do the preview for the squad for next season, and we do the keep sell loan next week, and you're looking at the centre backs, you
There's one other player I'd give the captain's armband to, but he's a player who I don't think will be around for next season. Although there's rumours we'll get into. There's my sources tell me.
Go on.
Aaron Ramsdale, who wore the captain's armband today.
I can't say it.
No, and neither can I. The rumours are they're going to try and keep him on the books and loan him.
Which I think would be a sensible move.
So that we loan him for a season in the Premier League, potentially go back up, bring him back in.
I think it would be a sensible move. I think it would be a really sensible move. And I think that...
What's alleviating his wage burden?
Yeah, it would be a sensible move if we can do that. Obviously, we look. The team has been bad this year. We know that. We know they could have been managed. They could have been better performances in. We've got a lot of people we can shift and come through. We've mentioned the youngsters. Kai Sander came on. Moore was on the bench today. Jay Robinson had a good performance today. There's enough there for Will Steele to work with also being clever. Now, Will Steele goes to teams where he doesn't spend a lot of money and the squads are stripped, and he's clever in the transfer market. Now, we're talking transfer market now. I was going to butcher their name and I haven't had a drink today. Trab Zonspor are apparently back in for Pornoachi.
I'd pay them to take him.
Yeah, you can have him. Besiktas apparently are looking. I think it's Besiktas are looking
for
Jan Bednarek. Obviously, we've had the wages now alleviated of Carl Walker-Peters. It's obviously been confirmed for British firm that he's gone.
I'd be sad that Yanni B would go, and I've seen a lot of people saying we should try and keep him. But let's not forget that he's been a pivotal part of a central defensive unit that has got us relegated twice now.
And lost 9-0 twice. So
yeah. Look, so I'm sad because I like Yanni B, but I think it's time to move on.
Thanks, Yanni B. See you later.
Taylor Howell-Bellis is also linked with West Ham. He's another one. Since I've said this repeatedly on the podcast, I'll say it again today. Since his England call-up and then going and changing his agent, he's more fussed about his hairband than he's about playing his football.
But there's people out there that think that he's not been that bad this year. Give your head a wobble. He's been awful.
He's been dreadful. He's been making tons of mistakes while shouting at other players.
Now, I don't know whether for him it was because he, what's the word? The step to the Premier League came too soon for him, because he was good last year, but I'm firmly in the camp of looking forward to almost a back four of what's their face?
Beef,
Wellington,
Beef,
Edwards, Woods, and James Bree. And I actually find it quite disappointing that James Bree didn't get a game today. I don't understand what he'd done wrong for Sugawara to get picked over him. I know Sugawara didn't have the worst game in the world, but I actually thought that James Bree would have been picked.
I like Sugawara's work rate, and I think he'd be great in the Championship.
He's another one that can go though.
But he's not a good Premier League player.
He can go.
And I think that back four's solid. I think we need a reset at this point because we've got too much from the past. Yanni B has worked hard. He's been a good servant. He's another one. I'm never going to be a Liverpool fan. I'm never going to be like, thanks for all your efforts. I'm now going to boo you because you're choosing to leave. I wish him the best. Same as Carl Walker-Peters. Carl Walker-Peters, if he did a separate lap of honour on his own today, he's a player who I would have clapped. He's done a lot of time for us.
Yep.
He's played a lot of minutes, played a lot of games. He's been here for a number of years. He's worked really hard, and he's going on a free. You know what, Carl Walker-Peters? All the best to you. Thank you. Because the last time we went down, he stayed and he fought, and he was part of the team that got us back up.
And it won't happen only unless you join Pompey. If you join them, then screw you.
Yeah.
It'll be. I'll watch the rest of his career with interest. It'll be interesting to see where he goes, because it's odd that a player of that caliber is leaving the team and doesn't have someone and hasn't signed someone yet.
I think it's been interesting that people haven't seemingly come in for him over a number of years.
Agreed.
I think he's been solid for us, but I don't think he's that great in the wider world of football.
I think we'll see in the next 3-4 weeks where he potentially would go, but you're looking at, I would assume you're going to look at a Fulham or someone around that sort of stature. I
wouldn't be surprised to see him in a promoted side. I don't know what the right backs are like for the three promoted sides, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him in a promoted side.
I hadn't thought about that, actually. I don't think he'll go to Leeds. Burnley, I don't think he's fit into, but Sunderland.
Maybe.
Sunderland. And rumours that Jordan Henderson's going to go back to Sunderland.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? So we've got potential rumours of Dibbling going to United. Dibbling's another one, right?
That's with the Jason Wilcox link, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and I don't think I'm that sad about it. I've said this before. You give it people play those games, right? Who would you rather have as your striker? This person, this person. Who would you rather blah blah blah? Who would you rather keep? And you go Dibbling or Aribo. Well, I'd rather keep Dibbling. Fine, cool, okay.
Aribo's another one that's being touted.
Who would you rather keep? Dibbling or Fernandez? Well, I'd keep Fernandez. Dibbling's gone. Who would you rather keep? Fernandez or? And then that's it. Then the game's finished because it's just Fernandez every time, and it is, And I look at anything else we've got in midfield. I think our best player in midfield this season, outside of Matthew Fernandez, has been Ugochukwu, who's a loanee. He's come from Chelsea. Downs has been bang average, whilst also having a falling out with a manager.
Well, I think you can put those players into, if you're going to judge their performances, you need to put them under which managers they're playing for at the time.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. I think you're right. But I think the biggest problem we've had is our formation and the way we've been set up. Today was already exciting for me because we actually started with a striker on the pitch. Ross Stewart, who got his goal.
Told you he'd be good, didn't I?
If he stays fit, I think he could be very interesting.
I've done a bet with Matt McManus. If he stays fit for the whole season next year, Championship top goal scorer.
I don't think he'll do that.
Well, let's see what happens.
I'd actually very much like to see a Cam Archer, Ross Stewart partnership.
Yes.
But to play Cam Archer frequently in the Championship, we need to feed the right kind of ball into him, which isn't run down the wing, turn around, pass it back to your centre-back.
I would like to see, and I know that we've been talking about it, but I think that we have a solid base for an attack. We need to add another striker to it at least, but you've got Ross Stewart, Cam Archer. If Cam Archer wants to stay, Ross Stewart has pretty much come out today and said he wants to stay. I'd also like to see Don Ballard being amongst the striker line.
What about Armour?
Sack him off.
Yep, I agree.
Sack him off.
What about Ben Barrett Diaz is now not part of the promoted
Well, he went off yesterday because he hurt his hip. Get over yourself, mate.
Did you see the challenge?
Yeah.
Honestly, as a man who played many, many years of rugby, he comes on, they concede, he gets himself booked, he gets a slide tackle, and then he goes off injured. Honest to God. You'd have to drag me off by 2 broken legs from Wembley's pitch.
Look, it's an interesting one because we're mentioning we still do have Adam Armstrong. Do you know, I would get rid. However, we're talking about a new manager with new ideas, with a new way of playing. He might go to all these players, and people like Diaz and Armstrong might be sat. Adam Armstrong might be sat home now thinking, actually, I want to have a meeting with this guy. I want to stay at Southampton.
I think the thing to always remember as well, Saints fans, is it's not as simple as get rid of. Because if they're under contract and nobody else wants to buy them and you want to get rid of, you have to pay them compensation. It's not as easy as get rid of him, get rid of him, get rid of him.
But
you've got to find a suitor who's prepared to pay.
There are 23 other teams in that league that would pay for Adam Armstrong.
I don't think that's true. I don't think 23 teams would. Maybe half, not 23 other teams. Not a chance.
A lot of them would. And I think that you just, like I said, with the whole situation, depending on where we are, it is all dependent on what our opinions. Obviously, we do this for fun and for chat to pay us money, which they're not doing. But we do it for. We want to get people involved. We've got the football community, but none of our opinions really matter. It's all down to that the ginger ninja now who sits there and he wants to decide who he wants. So he might have stood in that stand tonight and thinking to himself, I don't want that player. I don't want that player. But again, like you said, it also might come down to Sugawara. Do you know what? I want to get rid of him. But he decided he didn't want to go.
The thing that terrifies me the most?
What?
Lens tried to buy Sulemana in the January transfer window.
League One, here we come. Jesus.
Ash is right though. If you want to support the show, you want to support the podcast, want to support what we're doing here, there are a few ways you can do it. Watching helps, commenting in the live chat helps, hitting the like button helps, listening on iTunes and Spotify all helps. All these things helps. Sharing it with people who you might think are interested because they're also Saints fans also helps. But the main ways you can support us is through the membership scheme on YouTube or through Super Chats. So if you want to become a member of the podcast, you get access to Discord, and throughout the summer, Ash and I are going to be working on how we can improve other tiers and give you more benefits for those bigger tiers. You can also gift memberships using the channel's monetization button, the little dollar sign in the bottom right corner. If you're already a member or you're not a member, you can gift 5, 10, etc. members. It supports us financially, gives other people a chance to come into the Discord server and have a look around and spend some time in the members-only areas. Equally, you can super chat. So if you've got some thoughts on Will, if you've got some thoughts on today's Arsenal game, if you've got some thoughts on the season in general, you can check up on a super chat. And at the end of the show, we get to all those super chats. We'll answer them. We'll read your comment out live on air, and we'll talk about it, and we'll answer it, and we'll say thank you. And Ash will probably take his clothes off. So there you go. Anyway, not only was it the last game today for Southampton, and Will got to watch his team and decide who we might want to keep, marry or kill. We also had the last day of the Premier League season.
Yes, the massive climax that everyone had been building up of exactly what was going to happen at the end of the Premier League, and it was, apart from one bit, it was absolute dog toffee.
Much like my wedding night, it was a disappointing climax.
Yes. Yes. I wasn't there. Yes. I mean, I was at your wedding, but I wasn't there. All right. Move on.
So there was the champions decided weeks ago and had their 74th Guard of Honour. The bottom three decided weeks ago.
They had their Guard of Honour and then gave a guard of
No,
honour.
they had a guard of honour last week, and they had a guard of honour the week before. I think they had a guard of honour a week before that, and then this week they had a guard of honour. And once they had their guard of honour, they gave another guard of honour.
To the FA Cup winners. I mean,
Grow up!
What's going on?
We
What is
don't
going
need
on?
all these guards of honours. It's pathetic. You won the league. Well done. You got a trophy and a medal. You don't need everyone clapping you. Get your heads out your arses. And then to give a guard of honour to Crystal Palace for winning the FA Cup. No, grow up. They've lifted their trophy. Stop it. It's pathetic.
No one's ever given anyone a guard of honour for winning the FA Cup.
Ah, it annoys me.
What's that all about?
But the league was decided weeks ago. The relegation was decided weeks ago. So the Premier League has decided to make a big thing about how the Champions League spots and the Europa League spots made it a very exciting final day.
Yes, very much so. And then
the Premier League themselves decided to fuck it. If you're an Aston Villa fan and you're watching the show, either live or on demand, I genuinely feel sorry for you.
agreed.
I genuinely feel sorry for you, and you should be aggrieved, and you should be upset. And PGMOL have just cost you a lot of money. If you haven't seen it, if you check out the Aston Villa game against Manchester United today, where Aston Villa were fighting for a top 4 spot for Champions League football, they scored what was, in my opinion, having seen it on replay, they scored what I think was a perfectly legitimate goal.
Yep.
And having seen it on replay a number of times, I see that as a perfectly legitimate goal, no issues whatsoever. What happened, however, is the official shit his pants for some reason and blew the whistle just before the ball went over the line.
Yep.
Just before the ball went into the goal.
Yeah.
Which apparently meant that VAR were not able to intervene.
Yes.
Because he blew before it crossed the line.
Yes.
Which is one of the biggest crocs of shit I've ever heard in my life. So, the goal got disallowed. Would have put Villa 1-0 up. Moments later, Manchester United go down the other end of the field and score.
Yes.
That's a daylight robbery.
Yes. And I think that obviously, so the Premier League Match Centre came out and said that obviously, like you said, the reason why the goal wasn't given was because the referee had, I can't remember his first name, his surname was Ballard, had blown his whistle before the ball had crossed the line and therefore they couldn't intervene. I'm sorry, I'm going to call bullshit on that. I know there's rules and stuff, but we can change them to work it out and sort out how this thing goes on. It's worth mentioning, for those who don't know, Villa were down to 10 men because Emi Martinez had a pure moment of absolute madness in what is probably going to be his last game for Aston Villa. No idea.
That was a wild decision that he made there.
Absolutely no idea. And again, worth mentioning with that is that the VAR, who agreed that it was a red card and didn't overturn the decision, was the same VAR who last week said that Dean Henderson shouldn't have been sent off for Crystal Palace. So, there's your consistency, PGMOL. Well done. Good guys.
To be fair, if you watch it today, he comes charging out of his 18-yard box and he just body checks him.
The ball gets knocked past him and he takes a very good look at him and draws into him. Now, Villa were terrible. I watched a lot of the game. Villa were terrible. And United had, I think, something like 5 shots on target in the first 8 minutes. And no one's saying, I heard a Villa? I'm talking like you now and I've not even had a drink.
Yet.
We've heard the Villa fan come out on TalkSport and said, not saying we would have won the game, but it changes the complexion of that game. They score that goal, which is a perfectly good goal, and I still don't understand, for the life of me, why the referee even gave it the free kick. So the linesmen, or assistant referees, whatever you want to bloody call them nowadays, are told, wait until the player's finished and then blow, or put your flag up and then we'll check it. So in that instant, why didn't he just wait until the player had finished? It was 3 seconds. That's all it was. Wait 3 seconds. Right, the goal's gone in. And then once the goal has hit the back of the net, then you can blow for a free kick. No one's stopping you. And then VAR can get involved.
Then you get the benefit of VAR.
And then VAR, that's the whole reason. We haven't done VAR in a way for weeks because we were talking about saying, this is awful. This is awful. And there's VAR in other decisions. Obviously, there was one in the Championship playoff final yesterday where it started to get involved in things that it hasn't done before. But that today is an absolute disgrace. And Villa have already come out and said they're going to make a complaint to
I think
the PGMOL.
Again, I think for me, this is part of the reason why I'm looking forward to the Championship, because I think that, it's made worse by the fact that VAR is available, and because of the way in which it was played out today, it wasn't used. So I think that if that happens 10, 15 years ago when VAR doesn't exist, it's still a talking point. It's still a goal that was disallowed. But the rest made a decision, And that's what happens in football.
Yeah.
But now because VAR is available to us, and because if he'd have waited 2 seconds, let the ball cross the line, because there was no other outcome that was going to happen there, let the ball cross the line, and then blows and lets VAR look at it, and then VAR gets a chance to say yes or no. What's made worse by this is with the technology is available, and I think that it's very rare that I look at that and think that VAR would then say yes, correct, no goal. I think they go, yeah, it's a goal.
Oh,
I think it's disgusting.
That referee is going to have a look back at that replay, and he's going to look at that and go, "Oh my god,
what have I
done?"
I don't know why you like. If the referee had allowed that play to continue and the ball crosses the line, and he blows the whistle and says, "I'm not sure about this one. I think it might be a foul. Can you check for me?" I don't think anyone then has a go at him. I think that's fine. People go, "Yeah, cool. That's what VAR's for. Great." The fact that he blows the whistle before the ball just before the ball crosses the line. Unai Emery was enraged. I think rightly so.
Fuming. And look, I know some people say we don't care about the result. We don't give two tosses who qualifies for the Champions League or Europa League. I was hoping for a bit of excitement. Chelsea beat Forest, and Forest were dreadful. Villa were dreadful. Newcastle lost home. It's like none of them wanted to qualify for the Champions League.
Do you think, having now done a full season in the league, do you think the English Premier League has lost its spark and lost its excitement?
Oh, it lost it years ago.
Do you reckon?
Oh, 100%. They're trying to... It's because football is beginning to lose its soul, as we know. There's not so many games. And do you know what? I know there's not so many games at 3 o'clock kickoffs, etc. And I love that because I love being able to watch football because it means I don't have to sit there and watch Call the Midwife and flipping Grey's Anatomy every second.
Top shows.
Top shows. Watch them instead of this. So
no, don't do that.
It's great to have football on the TV all the time. We've got loads of bits. There's so much issues with it, and yes, we love the controversy. We love being able to talk about it. One of the reasons why we started doing VAR in a way because it was an absolute joke. But the Premier League has lost its spark, and there will be some people in the top Premier League officials, whoever, who are going to be sat in an office somewhere and thinking to themselves, well, that last day of the season, there wasn't really, and like I said, there wasn't anything riding on it. City won at Fulham. Shock.
What for you? In historic times gone by, what was one of the best parts about last day of the season for you? Do you think? I've got an opinion. I just want to know if you've got a thing from the last day that you go, that was when it was exciting. I have a thing.
For me, what I want to see on a last day of the season, traditionally the title is normally wrapped up. There's been a few times when it's not been. Obviously, the biggest point that people always remember will be the Aguero moment.
City Man United, yeah.
But what people also forget in that instant as well is that there were still 2 teams in that season that could have been relegated on the last day of the season. And it was always a relegation battle. And that's why I love, and I know we're going to get into in a minute, that's why I love the playoffs so much, because when you get to that stage of the season, every goal counts, every goal is crucial. And I don't want it to be ruined. I'm not saying Villa would have won the game today. I'm really not going to say that, because I don't think they would have done, because they were awful. They could have won the game today. But the thing is, we're now sat here, and everyone will be sat here talking about a refereeing decision, which was a piss-poor refereeing decision.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Not a controversial one.
No,
it is controversial, but no one can come back and say
it's controversial.
That's a free kick.
It's controversial because it was so bad, though,
yeah,
right?
No one's coming back and saying that was a free kick.
Yeah.
If you think it's a free kick, take yourself to the top floor window and jump, because you've got no idea what you're talking about. But we're sat here now.
He's not even had the beer.
We're sat here now talking about a decision that has effectively impacted the big ending that everyone's been doing, and it's been on all flipping day. And if you weren't at the game. Well, I was watching the football from home today, and I had like 3 different screens on, and you've got the thing going. And every 5 minutes, it was like, oh, as it stands, because there's been a goal, this is where it is in the race for Europe. And I was like, oh, okay, so it's not changed all day.
They've had to make something of nothing there, haven't they?
And then,
so for me, the most exciting parts of the final day of the Premier League is the potential for certain teams to go down. Saints were involved in final day of the season's relegation scraps where they survived, and that's all gone. For me, the biggest shame. So Liverpool ran away with it this year, right? Liverpool ran away with the title. They got a 10-point deficit, in essence, compared to Arsenal, and it was deserved, to be fair. I think they have had a reasonable number of things like VAR decisions going their way, but I think on the whole it was deserved. Fine, okay, that happens. It's a bit of a freak season. Arsenal scored a significant number of points and yet weren't in the running. It's a bit of a freak season. That happens. Fine, okay, cool. if you look at the Europa League spots, the Europa Conference League spots, the Champions League spots, actually they were relatively well contested. There was a number of teams that could have been involved in Champions League between Forest and Newcastle and Aston Villa and etc. etc. So I don't think that was dull necessarily, but it wasn't as exciting. It's never as exciting as this team is in 18th position on the last day of the season, climbs their way into 17th position. That is the most exciting the Premier League gets on the final day.
What I want to see on the final day of the season is I want to see a team that's 1-0 up, putting 10 men behind the ball, and the team that needs to score or it's level or whatever, and the team that needs to stay up or qualify or win or whatever, throwing 10 men forward. I want to see keepers going up for flipping corners.
Do you also think, like, I'm gonna go on to a bit of a tangent here because I think this is quite interesting. I think this is relevant with what's happened with Southampton. Do you think the style of football has also ruined it a little bit?
Of course
So
it
I
has.
remember, and I don't know if this is just nostalgia, and it might just be nostalgia, but I remember Andy Gray and Martin Tyler, Sky Sports, Sunday afternoons, we just had a big roast dinner at home, and it was just exciting football to watch.
Yeah.
End-to-end, exciting, fast-paced, shots going in from all over the place. You see games like Newcastle, Liverpool, where there was 4 goals, 4 threes, like mad exciting football. And I think that the atmosphere with the commentators and it's nighttime Sunday football is great, and it's in the winter and it's dark, and it's just, that's football for me under floodlights Sunday evening and belly full of roast dinner. Watch, incredible.
Yeah.
And I think that Pep is incredible. Pep has done an incredible job, but Pep's total football type stuff that he does, his, what do they call it, ticky-tappy?
Tick-attacker football.
Tick-attack football, I think has made it boring. If I'm honest. And one of the things I saw, Spurs did an interview a couple of weeks, we talked about, I think on the last show, where they asked him if he'd gone for a Pep manager or if he's going for a Klopp manager, and he said a Klopp manager. I genuinely, audibly breathed a sigh of relief. Because I don't want Pep football, because I think it's dull. I think it's boring.
I was yelling at it today.
And I watched Palace City, it was boring.
Forest, 1-0 down. They need to score 2 goals to get into the Champions League. 92 minutes on the clock. Okay, there was 7 minutes stoppage time. 92 minutes on the clock, they get a corner. Get the flipping keeper up.
Yes!
It doesn't
Where's
matter.
that gone?
Doesn't matter. And the one thing that we have, and it's a memory that I will have for a lifetime, was last year when Southampton scored last minute at Preston and Gavin Bazunu knocked it against Ched Evans and went in. We all thought the keeper had scored. George has gone to the game with me, first away game, thinks the keeper scored the last minute. That was just a regular league game, and we still had 2 minutes left to play after that.
Well,
but you today, the ball then gets in for a corner, it comes out. What do Forest do for a minute? They're piss-arsing around and passing it side to side because they want to build up. Just put the flipping ball in the box.
Well, even today, we obviously conceded against Odegaard 70-something minutes, right, 80-something minutes. And then there's a 5-minute period of play where we're back across the back four.
I get that today.
No, I
because
don't.
the game's dead. It's a dead rubber.
So why not throw everything at it then?
No, look, I get that. What I'm talking about is the games where something actually means something. So you would have seen some games today, and there were some where they were going for it. But Newcastle were chasing the Champions League position, and they were passing around the ball in the back of the last minute. Villa were doing it. Granted, they only had 10 men, and they were doing it. I said that a lot of the team didn't want to qualify for the Champions League. Today in the playoff final, Charlton scored that goal, and Leyton Orient were going for it. And they were just, towards the end, they eventually started hopelessly lumping it. It's like, where is this everything
urgency
now? There's no urgency.
Yeah.
It's put the ball on the floor and try and build the perfect goal. Do you know what? If you perfectly score it like Watson did for Sunderland yesterday, cracking goal, by the way, and it goes into the bottom corner, it looks amazing, the fans celebrate. If it hits you on the arse and goes in, the fans celebrate just the same. It doesn't matter how the ball goes in. Just put it in the back of the bloody net.
Even Sheffield United's first goal. Sheffield United's first goal is perfect. Look at it. It
was a great goal.
It was incredible skill, but it wasn't pass. It was hit them on the break, incredible athleticism. It was determination. It was drive. It was power.
Yeah.
And both players who were involved in that goal just went for it. Beautiful pass, incredible first touch, lovely finish.
Yeah.
That's exciting, fast football.
But then that's how Sunderland's goal came, because they broke. And Patrick Roberts changed the game when he came on Sunderland yesterday, but he broke and he put it through to Mayenda, and Mayenda smacked it into the top corner.
I think Ash and I personally are of the opinion that the Premier League has come to a relatively kind of tedious and dull climax. I'd love to know what you guys think. Stick it in the comment section below after the show is finished, because that really helps our algorithm, and we read all the comments. Ash replies to basically every single one as well. So let's know what you think. Obviously, for us personally as Saints fans, and if you are a Premier League consumer, we do now know who is going to be taking part in both leagues. So the Championship playoff final was yesterday, and I sat there and almost sobbed as I remembered what we were doing a year ago, because we were there at Wembley watching Saints win. And I was actually disappointed. I was disappointed. Sheffield United did this out their end, which I think is also already disappointing. Maybe that's an indication that they're not excited about the Premier League.
Maybe.
Although Wilder didn't get promoted, and that is great because he's a knob. It was a terrible game, let's be honest, but at least it wasn't a 1-0. So it did confirm Sunderland's place returning to the Premier League alongside Brentford and Leeds. Not Brentford. Burnley and Leeds, thank you. Brentford are already in the Premier League. Alongside Burnley and Leeds. So that's your top three for the Championship now going into the Premier League. Obviously, Ipswich, Southampton, Leicester all coming down and swapping places with those. And then today we had Notts County, we had Charlton, Leyton Orient, and we were all backing Leyton Orient because Nathan Jones, but Charlton did pip that one, and they've now got themselves promoted as well. So we now know the Championship next season, they get promoted alongside Birmingham and Wrexham. I think it's going to be an interesting Championship next season.
Championship looks strong next year. Like I said to you, 19 teams out of the 24 have been in the Premier League before. We'll do a prediction show where we talk about it. I would look at the makeup now, and I would say my early favourite to finish bottom of the Championship next season will be Oxford United. The top six could be any. It all depends.
Do you think we'll be in the top six? Do you think we could be in the top six?
Oh, I think we could easily be in the top six. I think we could easily win the league next year. No, not easily win the league next year. No, I think we could win the league next year. But then I also think Sheffield United could win the league next year. I think Sheffield United might sack Chris Wilder now because they lost the playoff final. But I think if they keep hold of Chris Wilder, they are going to be very, very strong going into the Championship next season. We should be in a stronger position because I'd like to assume they haven't hired Will Steele unless there's a plan. When you look at teams like Coventry, Frank Lampard will still be there. Is he going to win the league? Is he going to be going for it next season?
So with people like with the appointment of Will, interviews are two ways, especially in this particular game. So not only does Will have to sell himself to the club and tell him about his philosophy and what he wants to do and how he wants to run
to sell ourselves
the team,
to him.
We also have to say to him because if he goes, cool, so I'm happy, I'd like to come, but what's the budget for spend? What's the plan around transfers? And they go, no budget, no spend. You just got what you got. He's probably going to go, nah.
No, you're right.
Because that's going to just be a dark stain on my record as a manager trying to put this.
With the Championship, there is always chances. There's teams that will go that you would assume to be at the bottom that'll be challenged at the top. There's teams that you think potentially might be challenged at the top, coming at the bottom. We talked about the playoffs, but what we didn't talk about because obviously we weren't in the Championship, so we didn't cover it that much. Is teams like West Brom, who are normally there or thereabouts. They played us. Obviously, we beat them in the playoffs last season. Yeah, because we still say that last season we beat them in the playoffs. Teams like Watford, who have been up there. Teams like Stoke and Hull, who are kind of lingering low, mid to bottom of the Championship table, who at some point will get a manager in and they'll get a formula and they'll click. It is a massive, make no mistake about it, from a Southampton perspective, it is a massive, massive pre-season. And actually, when we sat here last Sunday, maybe not 3 weeks ago, I sat here going, oh my God, I'm really not looking forward to it. Now Will Steele's in charge. I'm excited to see where it goes. However, I think we need to prepare ourselves for the fact that the squad is probably going to get very, very thin before it gets the pre-season friendlies. And we don't know who are playing pre-season.
But our squad is mammoth.
The squad is mammoth. We don't know what the friendlies are going to be. Some teams have already announced them. So I don't know how many people follow local football, but Sholing have already announced a pre-season friendly against Chelsea. Levi Colwell is one of their directors. He plays for Chelsea. Of course, they're going to get that fixture mixed up. It means a big payday for Sholing, etc. But we just need to wait and see. And I think that the Championship being where it is now, it's good for us. We can start looking at the away days we want to do. You know, when do we want to ditch the wives and disappear on a Saturday afternoon? Every Saturday afternoon. And, you know, it's also going to give us a bit of clarity in terms of what's going to happen now in terms of management. So we've got another few weeks of managerial go-arounds. We've talked about Danny Rohl. Kazarian's in chat. You never know. He might stay. He might not get an offer.
I think he will.
I think he will go, but football's a funny game.
Yeah.
And no one knows what's going to happen. There's going to be Premier League managers that are going to start leaving their jobs in the next few weeks. So they've gone, I've had enough.
Well, talk about football being a funny game and managers that were potentially going to leave their jobs. We also, this last week, had the Europa final.
Oh, my God.
It was apparently a game of football. Having seen some of it, I'm not entirely sure we can
was
call
not
it that.
a game of football. It was awful.
But it was apparently a game of football. Tottenham took on Manchester United. Honestly, I wanted Tottenham to win. I did want Tottenham to win. Honestly, because it's Man United, isn't it? And they did. They beat them with a terrible goal, with a terrible game that was terrible. But that being said, it's finals, isn't it? Finals don't necessarily always bring out the best in football. The playoff final yesterday wasn't great. The playoff final today wasn't great.
Our playoff final wasn't great.
Our playoff final was terrible, really. We have an incredibly fond memory of it because we won it, and there's a bias there as a fan, but it wasn't a great game of football. The Europa League final, it is hilarious, however, after Tottenham don't Tottenham now finish 17th?
They finished 17th. They didn't even hit the 40-point mark.
So they finished 17th. They don't get 40 points, but they do have a European trophy and they get Champions League football.
I know.
Lol. Isn't that weird?
And Big Anne standing up and saying, "I normally win things in season 2, but when you watch the series, season 3 is better than season 2."
Apart from that's not true. It's mostly nonsense.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if Daniel Levy still sacks him.
Why did The Office do 2 seasons? Why did Fawlty Towers do 2 seasons? It's mostly nonsense.
I've never watched The Office.
It's mostly nonsense, that. The thing about watching TV series is season 3 is always better than season 2. There's a very Ange statement because it's complete nonsense.
Yeah, that's just, can I please stay in the job next season?
Yeah, sorry, Daniel, please don't sack me.
But they're going to, we'll talk about it. Maybe we'll do a show. Let's see, if chat want us to, maybe we'll do a show and we'll review this for Premier League season for next year as well. But Spurs have got to do a flipping big job to get themselves ready for Champions League football next year. They're not going to win it, and they need to qualify for European football somehow. It's not like the teams that are in the Champions League go back into the Europa League like they used to. That doesn't happen anymore. So they need to be fighting on 2 fronts, and they couldn't even fight on 1 front this year.
No, yeah, they struggled.
And they made the final of the semi-final of the League Cup. Semi-final of the League Cup. They won the Europa League with a fairly simple run. But again, we've got an English team that's going to have won the Europa League, an English team that's probably going to win the Europa Conference League.
Yeah, I am. However, I actually don't dislike Ange. His statement is nonsense, but I don't dislike Ange Postecoglou. I think he's okay in the game. I think he's quite entertaining. I'm glad Tottenham won the trophy over United. I think, actually, interestingly, Man United are in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Is the Pope a Catholic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, American one now, but yeah.
Of course, I think, like I said, I think a lot of the teams on top are in trouble. I think Pep's got his own issues at City. He's come out, obviously, and said... obviously, I've got too big a squad. Arteta's got a problem. They need to buy a striker and they need to start winning something next year. Liverpool will strengthen. I think they'll probably be okay.
Haven't Liverpool already strengthened? Haven't they already agreed to basically pay 200 million?
For people like Frimpong and stuff, yeah. But then you've got other teams out there, teams that have been in European. I see Riley's in the chat somewhere and he's a West Ham fan and, they won today, but they're Europa Conference League champions from 2 seasons ago, so they need to be doing better than what they're doing. There are a lot of teams in that Premier League that need to be doing.
There's one more big game of football to play. Realistically, that's the Champions League final.
Oh, I thought you meant Wimbledon versus Walsall tomorrow.
Inter Milan versus Paris Saint-Germain. How do you see that one going?
I have a heart and a head here.
Heart says
Inter.
Head says
PSG.
Why?
PSG just look unstoppable.
They look incredible.
I don't want PSG to win it because it means they've basically bought it. Like Wrexham have bought promotion, Birmingham have bought promotion, Newcastle have bought a trophy, and Chelsea have bought all their trophies and all that stuff. I don't necessarily want them to win it. I think PSG are going to be too strong. Having said that, if it was an open game and it was 2 open teams, I would say that PSG were going to nick it. But Inter play the Italian style of playing, and PSG are going to struggle to break that down.
And that's what I was going to say. That I think Inter could actually pip it here. I think they could, and I didn't see Inter beating Barca.
Inter, I'm one of those people that's got a team in flipping every league. Inter are my Italian team, shall we say, and they've looked very good this year. They were lucky to lose the league, unlucky to lose the league on the last day of the season. Antonio Conte wins the league with Napoli, and now apparently he's going to be let go of his job. That's amazing how mad Italian football is, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
That's what United should do. They should sack Amorim and go and get him because he'd definitely turn him into a force next year.
I think Inter could do it. I do.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Both teams can do it.
I want to bring up before we go and we say goodbye for our last end of match review for the season. I want to bring up something you touched on there. I was going to end the show straight away, but I want to bring up something you touched on. You talked about, I don't want PSG to win it because they will have bought a trophy like such and such, such and such, such and such, such and such, such and such. Right? can we really accuse teams of buying trophies nowadays? Because surely, if in a singular league, multiple teams have had multiple £1 million of investment, well, then they're on level playing fields. So is it fair to say, for example, that Newcastle bought a trophy when they're competing in a league that includes Liverpool, Chelsea, Manchester City? I don't think we can say that anymore.
I don't think. Look, it sounds. I'm assuming it's what Carty just said about my saltiest comment. It sounds salty. Yeah, do you know what? I'd love Southampton to be bought by some sort of Saudi oil baron. It'd be great.
As long as it's ethical money, yeah.
I think the thing with PSG is the Premier League to a point. And obviously we've discussed it, to a point it's still got some competitiveness to it.
Yeah.
Having watched and followed the French League closely, and again, I have a team in the French League who narrowly avoided relegation this year, it's just boring. And I know PSG, the ultimate goal for them is to win the Champions League. So every time they get knocked out, it's absolutely hilarious. I just find it, I just want teams to, I like change. But I just want, fair play for Newcastle winning this year, league this year, not league, the cup this year. Fair play for Tottenham to win it, fair play for Palace to win it and stuff. But it's just that, PSG, it's amazing, isn't it, with PSG when you think about it, how they've got rid of Neymar, Mbappe and Messi, and now they're looking at a point where they potentially could become European champions. And that's the coveted trophy they've wanted for so long. And now they've got rid of all the players that they bought to win it. And they actually might win it because they've now got a team rather than a team of individuals.
Which is good.
Oh, it's amazing. It's massive.
Yeah.
But, we could be sat here next week and talk about anyone winning it. PSG could win it. Inter could win it. We could be sat here next week talking about it. It could be I don't know. We have to wait and see. But I would like Inter to win it. I prefer Inter to win it.
I don't have a preference. I don't really care. I just want it to be an exciting game of football.
It's not going to be an exciting game.
And I think if I watch the semi-finals were pretty exciting on the whole.
The final is not going to be an exciting game of football.
You don't reckon?
It's scared football, isn't it?
It is scared football typically, yeah.
That's the whole point.
We'll see. I like the idea of it being PSG trying to break down Inter Milan and just like constantly knocking at the door for 90 minutes would be quite exciting.
The best thing that game could do with potentially is an early PSG goal, because then Inter have to open up and then it's going to be end to end. But then I think PSG will run away with it because they've got a player whose name I'm not going to try and pronounce. He's I can't even remember where he's from now. Georgian winger, something Vili or whatever, and he looks out of this world. He looks superb, and I think he's a really good player.
So that's the end of the season, team. Unlike some other podcasts out there in the world, what we're not going to do at this stage is just stop doing content till the new season, although I'd be tempted to have my Sunday evenings back. We'd like to do some more shows. So we got some other ideas, an end of season review, a proper end of season review all the way through the season, a sell, loan, keep, where we look at the squad, who we sell, who we loan, who we keep. We'll probably do a show where we jump a little bit deeper into Will Steele and like what he's done at Lyon and stuff like that. There's lots of things we can do to keep shows going.
He's done nothing.
Sorry, Lance. Yeah, I know what I meant. I'm tired. So yeah, there's lots of things we can do, lots of shows we can do. So we're going to keep this going over the coming weeks. It'd be great if you could continue to join us live on YouTube. We are hopefully both picking up season tickets for the next season with Southampton so that we can continue to bring you post-games reviews of the 25-26 season in the Championship. One of the only ways we can do that is with your support. If you 55 people that are currently still watching right live at the moment would like to support us, gifting a membership is the best way you can do that. It'd be very grateful if you could do that for us. We do have a couple of super chats before we say goodbye, and I won't tell you exactly what next week's show is going to be because we haven't fully decided yet, but we will decide in the next couple of days and let you guys know in the Discord. So thank you so much, Matt McManus, for the $2 so far. He says Ross for Ballon d'Or. I was actually really chuffed for him for getting a goal. It wasn't the greatest. It was just a header from a corner. Who knows? You could do a simple thing and score a goal like that. But I actually was kind of chuffed for him for scoring that goal.
He's done well to put it away. He's got himself at a very weird angle to head it in. Look, he's had a horrible, horrible 2 years. And he's going to be thinking in the back of his mind. He left Sunderland to join Southampton to play Premier League football. And he scores his goal the day after Sunderland get promoted to the Premier League. So he's probably going to be thinking, oh, damn, that's a stupid decision. He's had a horrible time with injuries, and the one thing I will say about it, and a lot of people say around the club, people that I do know that are involved, is that he's always been the honest professional. He's gone in every day. He's gone in on his days off. He's worked hard. He's done everything he can do. He's just had a lot of bad luck. Some players get that bad luck. I hope that for him,
it's now stopped.
Yeah. And what he needs now is he needs to go away. He needs to have a break, 6-7 weeks, whatever it is. So I think they actually got 5 weeks off. Come back. Well, it depends. Will still might give him 3 weeks off. We don't know. Come back. and hit the ground running in pre-season. And I'm not saying that he needs to bang goals in for fun in pre-season, because most times, 9 times out of 10, when someone bangs goals in pre-season, they don't do it in the league following it. But whoever we line up against first game of the season next year, and the likelihood is we're going to be on TV first game, because it's going to be us. I think Matt McManus, one of our members, said it's probably going to be us away at Wrexham, or actually now, because they got promoted yesterday, it's probably going to be us away at Charlton. And
as long as in the first 10 games we don't play Pompey, I don't care.
Oh, we probably will. So he just needs to, I just hope for him, he can continue that going, because I've seen Ross Stewart play in the Football League in Scotland. He's a flipping good goal scorer.
So do you think, so this time next year, will Will still be Saints manager?
I can't make that judgment until pre-season.
No?
No.
Okay.
No. I'd like to think so.
Yeah, I'd like to think so.
If he's still
they've signed him on a 3-year contract.
If he's still Saints manager next year, we have either been promoted or we lost out. We've had done some bloody hard work. We've lost out to some sort of random thing.
I just like asking the question: will Will still?
Still will still be here next year.
Will Will still be here?
No, I can't do it. What we should have done is you should have got Matty to come into the studio and sing the song that he quoted in the start of this.
No. He's had far too many beers.
He's had far too many.
Talking of Matty, thank you so much for the $5, you legend. Keep up the great work as always, lads. Roll on the championship, up the Saints. It's not roll on the championship, it's Will still.
Dear, oh dear. Oh my God.
Oh, I've had a nice day. Honestly, it's not been that bad. I actually think the team showed a little bit more. It's far too little, too late, but showed a little bit more kind of desire and passion today. They sort of put some effort in. It's typical Saints: effort in against the big teams, no effort against the small teams, getting battered by the small teams, and almost getting points against the big teams. I hope you guys have been enjoying the show that we started Christmas time. Actually, started January. We started it. I'm definitely enjoying doing the show. I think you're still enjoying doing the show. We're enjoying talking about the football. We're enjoying talking about Southampton. We will be back next week. We're going to continue to cover the club in the off-season period. We will also be looking at some of the other clubs and their news, probably both Championship and Premier League throughout the off-season, to give us plenty of content to talk about as we get ready to roll into the new season. There's also the Club World Cup going on. We might graze on that, but honestly I'm not really that interested by it. I'm mostly interested to see what the Southampton Football Club does to get ready for the next season in the Championship for the 25-26 season. I'm really grateful for your support. Thank you for the 2 super chats that have come through today. Thank you for everyone who's been watching so far and been supporting the show. Thank you for all the kind words. Thank you for everyone who's come up to us and said the show's great, really enjoying it, it's amazing. It's actually really nice. And hopefully we'll continue to march on to 1,000 subs throughout the off-season period and then erupt into this incredible utopia of millions of fans and in the next season.
Mark Goldbridge style.
Just less knobbish.
Yeah, proper less knobbish.
Yeah, less blinkered knobbish.
Yeah.
That would be good, wouldn't it? But then we could then both work for TalkSport and stuff as well.
Make our own radio station.
Yeah, because they're a bit rubbish too, actually, to be fair.
Less blinkered, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, like I said, I hope you guys have enjoyed the show. We appreciate your support. Thank you so much, you wonderful human beings. If you haven't already, come and join us in the Discord community. There's a link in chat right now. If not, there is a link in the description below if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify or watching on demand or YouTube. Share it with everyone that you know who likes football and I hope that they start watching it too. That's everything from me. Is there anything you'd like to say before we disappear? My dearest brother.
Will Steele's Red Army. Up the Saints.
Up the Saints. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.